Appreciate it.
Well, there's a new poll measuring President Obama's job performance showing a bit of a generation gap, if you will. Take a look at this. According to opinion research, more Americans under the age of 50 think he's a success than a failure. But when it comes to folks over 50, more than half think the president isn't making the grade. So if President Obama wants a second term, does this mean he needs to really fire up the youth base again? Here now, Ron Bonjean, former communications director to Speaker Dennis Hastert, and David Mercer joins us, a Democratic strategist. Good to see you both. David, let me start with you. I mean, that's quite a generation gap when it comes to voters. And since young voters dropped off in the last election, is that the real challenge for the president, to motivate those young voters to get to the polls?
Absolutely, and I'm sure there are other voters that we're going to have to focus on and motivate, and that's why you see key aides, history-making aides, going back to Chicago to prepare to do that. But I think from that same poll, Greg, overall, we've seen an uptick in the poll of polls, as I believe it was, a 5% increase, putting the president above 50% in terms of his performance levels. And I think that was probably based on a lot of the success in the lame duck session, also contributing his speech in Tucson and bringing the country together on that tragedy. Right. And we haven't even seen the State of the Union address, so we're likely to see a bounce from that as well. What also is very important is you got an optimism. In the Gallup poll, you have an optimism not only on his next 2 years, Obama and his presidency, but on the economy. And that's what we'd love to see, is both the economic numbers and the polling numbers on an upward trend.
Let me stop you there. Ron, David makes a pretty good point. The president's approval rating has improved substantially over the last few weeks, and so too has his standing in hypothetical 2012 matchups with the leading GOP contenders. I took a look at the latest PPP poll, and in fact, the president leads all of them. Romney, Huckabee, Gingrich, Palin. What's more, a majority of Americans, including 56% of independents, think, hey, maybe the GOP would be a lot better off with an unknown as their nominee. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you know, I think President Obama right now is at a tipping point. You have you have older Americans who don't like him, younger Americans who like him a little bit more. And the challenge he's going to have now over the next 2 years is to get those older Americans to start supporting him and to really fire up those younger Americans. And that's going to take delivering on the promises of change. He has a significant opportunity at the State of the Union address to do that and to offer significant changes to show that he gets it in the president's budget.
My question really was, how come no Republican beats him?
Well, I think right now President Obama is getting a little bump up from the Tucson, memorial address he gave. I also think that people don't really know a lot of the Republican nominees right now. They haven't introduced themselves into the media like President Obama has a huge megaphone. And so I think that's a little bit of a challenge for Republicans right now. But really, over the next 6 months, a year, President Obama is going to have to start delivering, or else those numbers are going to start going down.
That's a fair point. David, the latest Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll shows that, all American voters think the country's economy is in bad shape. And look at this one right here. Few see benefits from the president's economic policies. In fact, slightly more voters think the policies have hurt rather than helped the economy. I mean, that's going to be a pretty discouraging record for the president to run on, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I don't think it's discouraging, and we're looking very optimistic as we hope the American public begins to feel with a lot of the legislation that's been passed over the last 2 years beginning to show a renewed confidence. I think over the last week or two, I was at a conference with at least 9 CEOs, including the one from GE, who is going to be now partnering with this administration in developing public-private partnership initiatives.
You don't think the fact that more people think the president's policies hurt instead of helped is discouraging? Come on.
Listen, we're always at work at this, and we always will put our shoulder to the grindstone to get past the challenges. And we have to do that collectively, both in shared approaches and bipartisanship to come up with those solutions. And you see that unfolding as we have over the last couple of days.
Ron, I want to get your take on the straw poll that just came out in New Hampshire, the GOP first ever straw poll in that state. We're going to put it up on the screen here. It is Mitt Romney, 35%, the nearest competitor Ron Paul, 11%, Pawlenty, 8%, Sarah Palin, a scant 7%. Does this show the strength of a guy like Mitt Romney?
He has a very strong organization in New Hampshire, and he's a very strong national organization set up when he decides to, should he decide to re-announce that he's running for president.
Right.
And he is a known quantity. He is, campaigned before very aggressively. He's going to be a big challenge and a well-known name, household name, in the next couple of years. Absolutely.
And he's got something really important, doesn't he, Ron? And that is an immense business background at a time in which the most important issues are jobs and the economy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. He is going to really showcase his economic experience, and that's what President Obama is trying to do. Take a page out of the Republican playbook and try to showcase some people around him now who have economic experience as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting battle over the economy over the next year or two.
David, the Wall Street Journal is reporting today, I'm sure you read it, that President Obama is going to be calling for new government spending in his State of the Union address on Tuesday. I mean, my goodness, isn't that the kind of big government, big spending that Americans have come to resent and want reversed?
I think what is the message there is that we cannot make permanent the course that we've set unless we continue with growth. So as I alluded to earlier, and the initiatives that we're going to engage in as Democrats and with the Obama administration leading us with the private sector. The private sector now has their tax cuts. They are looking more optimistic. They have $2 trillion on the sidelines that now we are looking to get deployed. And I think when you start seeing that, that you're going to see further developments and challenges being met and a permanent course of correction here.
David Mercer, Ron Bonjean, good to have you both with us today. Thank you.
Pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
A Fox News weather alert. It's cold. Arctic